Sure. So I'm Calum. I run Insulation Installers Scotland. We are a retrofit insulation company specializing in heritage buildings. Yeah, I'm just insulating houses throughout Scotland.
Fantastic, fantastic. Take me back to the time before we started working together. What was going on in the business at that point? Specifically, June 2026, before anything started.
So yeah, I mean, we're obviously generating leads. Like we've been running for 5 years, so we have a relatively decent organic content lead generation. But our website was old. It wasn't very detailed. It hadn't grown with us as we had grown as a company, and our sort of marketing that we've been doing is the same kind of marketing that we've been doing for since we started. So very basic and kind of relying on our name rather than doing all the technical on-page SEO and building good content. So yeah, it was kind of we got through a relatively decent amount of leads. They were relatively good quality, but we weren't really in control of generating more, or if we needed them.
So the quality was variable, and also you didn't really see how exactly are you able to kind of burn a bit more wood to actually get even more even more inquiries of the time in the ideal client range. Basically, would it be correct to say?
Absolutely. I mean, the other issue that we had was that it's super unorganized. When the leads came through, they came through via email, and whether you got a response or not was down to whether I saw that email that day or whether it got buried under another 250 emails worth of spam. And there was nothing tracking whether we had responded or hadn't responded. And yeah, you'd get a phone call, you'd miss a phone call, you'd maybe be on the phone for 45 minutes and you'd miss 3 calls. You maybe tried to call them back, you'd only get 2 of them. And then that one customer was essentially never contacted again. And so it was quite random whether you got through or didn't, which was obviously a problem.
Yeah. And then day to day, do you feel like this was how can you kind of describe this day to day? Was it just messy, or was it just difficult to deal with specifically? Because obviously you're saying that it was unorganized, and you wanted to make sure that there was some consistency with how you actually are dealing with the leads. But day to day, was it something that you felt like it was draining you too much, or was it just the case that it was itchy to finally fix that?
It was just unorganized. Yeah, there was nothing was really tracked. If you asked me how many leads we got last week or last month or last year, it would be impossible for me to tell you because we don't know. The only thing we knew was our diary's full. We're getting the work in, and yeah, I don't know how many leads came in, how many leads we contacted, how many quotes we sent out. There was nothing tracking that, and really holding me accountable to contact every single person. Like there's times in winter where we'd be getting 25, 35 calls a day, and just there's not enough time in the day to answer everybody or to survey them, and and we didn't need to be fair. So it's just super unorganized, nothing nothing tracked, which was an issue, and that's something obviously that we were looking to get resolved, which here is achieved, obviously.
And then when it comes to the problems that you just mentioned to me, where not really seeing how can we bring the predictability and consistency into generating more of those ideal clients in place, generally also making sure that there's stability with the quality of the prospect that you normally are dealing with, and then of course this organization aspect of the sales process after you generated the lead in the first place. What do you think this was costing you specifically? In money, time, stress, or whatever. What was the cost of not solving the problem?
So yeah, just a lot of time and a lot of stress, a lot of people chasing you up for things, and a lot of people contacting you for things that maybe you weren't really looking to do. A lot of jobs that we were getting through were good, but they weren't the right kind of jobs that we were wanting to grow. It was just whatever came through. Whereas now we've kind of got a website that's designed to generate us the exact kind of clients that we want, but while still not putting off the other clients that we are more than happy to facilitate the retrofit that they're looking for. We're generating more of the specific types that we are looking for, which we weren't even targeting before, really, because our website was so general. It wasn't targeted and didn't have a lot of specific information explaining what we're doing. It was more when a customer came through, we would then explain it, and whether they wanted it or not, we'd take them on a different journey for whatever kind of installation they're looking for or measures that we're looking to do. But now customers are calling in, they know what they want because they've went through our whole website, read it all, had a load of detailed information about what we do and how we do it. And everything's just a lot more streamlined to manage these clients as they come through. They go into the right sections, and there's loads of detailed information on what they're looking for. And we don't miss anybody, which is the great thing.
Absolutely. What have you tried before we started working together, if you don't mind me asking? Like what were the channels, or what were the companies or tools, approaches that you tried before, and why didn't they work to get you to the position where you wanted to be?
So we would try now and again when we were wanting some extra work. We'd do a little bit of Facebook pay-per-click marketing, a little bit of Google pay-per-click. But if you don't understand the way they work and how to exclude search terms and how to properly target the right words that people are searching, then you can just waste a load of money on things that you don't want. People are finding you, they want something completely different than the service that you're trying to offer. And they're clicking on your link, and you're paying high costs to get people that you're just not interested in doing, or that you couldn't help because it's something completely irrelevant to what your business does. So we spent a lot of time trying to do organic search engine optimization, and I spoke to a lot of different people about it. There wasn't a lot of people that I would trust to do it. I'd kind of done a fair bit of search engine optimization on my old website and built that one myself, and it was something that we got up the rankings for a lot of the search terms, but there was a limit to what can be done if you don't have extensive knowledge on how to do it on the technical side. So I'm just the time, I've got a business to run, and a lot of different tasks to do in a day, and having to set out 6 hours a day to go and write different articles and upload them to the website or put them on Facebook or whatever social media we're trying to do. It's just not enough time in the day to do all that kind of stuff. We did try a little bit of growing our Facebook and our Instagram, but it's not the most attractive thing to follow, installation companies. So it's I always kind of lost interest in that.
Yeah, so the time, energy aspect, and also the knowledge aspect on how exactly can this be properly scaled was stopping. And it feels like you mainly were trying to figure this out in house, right? So it wasn't the case that you tried to hire, you had experience hiring people to try and solve this problem before, yeah?
Yeah, I've always been super skeptical of people who come to you promising that they can get you this and get you this traffic and generate you these jobs and whatever. And it's very hard to trust somebody with, your website, your marketing, your, Google ads or whatever. And we've paid a couple of people now and then to do some Google ads here and there, but it's always been like not done very well. Like I can go on and I can put a budget of £500 a week or whatever, and click a button and target floor insulation or loft insulation, and it's the understanding of how to get the right customers and exclude the customers you don't want, that it doesn't, and we never seem to get from the other people that were carrying out this kind of work. And you'd end up paying for you'd get a lot of leads, but they'd be very low quality, or they'd be for things that are completely irrelevant to what we were looking for, and
yes,
just not worth the money firstly, but the time to actually deal with them.
Yes, and what almost stopped you from saying yes to starting to work together? What were you skeptical about the most?
So I guess, I mean, we had a probably 4.5 hour conversation before we decided to, work together. And, we were back and forth a lot and grilling. And, it's one of those ones where like anybody else that had come to, we obviously came to you because you were highly recommended to us by someone that we trust, really well, that also works with you. And, that got you in the door for that call. And, I get phone calls every week from people trying to do marketing and website redesign and pay-per-click stuff, and none of them get more than a 10-minute phone call. But spending that 4.5 hours or whatever it was on the call with you, going through absolutely everything, the way you do things, your theories behind marketing and then how you're planning to change what we're doing. There was obviously a lot of information that just ticked all the right boxes, really. You know, I always have concerns with taking anybody on, and I'm super pessimistic about everything, and I'll always think, what are the negatives to doing this? And obviously, we overcame them.
And what were them like? What exactly you felt the most skepticism about before actually saying yes, Harsini, let's get us going?
Yeah, so I think it was probably like, our website works okay. What if, you take over it and we're not getting the same amount of leads that we've got just now, and it gets worse? Or, we spend a load of money on Google Ads and it's just a waste of money and we're not getting the right kind of clients, or we get the website redesign done and it's not as good as what we were wanting it to be, or, or you take the money and you're not as dedicated as you would need to be or whatever to do it. And there's a lot of people that will take your money and then produce something really quickly and of a decent enough quality, but then that's it. You never hear from them again, or they check in with you once a month to check you're happy with the ad spend or whatever.
And then it would then organically, what tipped the skepticism? What exactly was the turning point that got you, okay, but we're doing this?
Yeah, so I mean, when we were initially coming to you, it was to get our website redesigned. That was the key focus for me on our initial call. Was like, we need a new website, we need it to do what we want it to do. And you were super excited about learning about insulation, because obviously you do a lot of work with solar and HVAC and heat pumps and things like that, but not really too much to do with the insulation side of things. So you were like really interested in how we did it and why we did it, what the different things we did were, how we were different from other companies, and like your passion for knowing exactly how everything works to be able to build the best kind of website that you could produce, that's accurate, and doing your deep dives and research into different things that we do. And obviously the amount of content that you needed from us to explain what we do, and then to rewrite absolutely everything that we've given you. Like, I know I obviously shared crazy amounts of information and pictures and stuff that was probably way over the top, but you took it all in and you reproduced that in such a good way. But it was the way that you were willing to go that extra mile to make the website good and to make it correct, and not just like a generic website for a trades business, like more a personalized website for our company and what we do exactly.
What was it actually like working together? Like any moment that stands out on top of what you already said? How you generally describe the experience of working with me, with the team? How exactly does it feel? Because obviously I do understand that for example, what we did here is was a massive project, right? Obviously I'm still doing a massive project, and sometimes it can feel a bit more ambiguous what exactly is happening there. So when it comes to you as the client, how you actually feeling working together? How's the experiences? Could you just quickly go through how
Yeah,
it feels?
Yeah, if I was gonna like describe it in like one word, it would be like intense. Like it said, there's always something to do. You're always working on something. Like the first video that we got after our call, was to explain what you're going to do and how you're going to do it in the process. And, you know, like it took me 2 seconds to get through that video because there was so much information coming from you about what we need and how we're going to do it and how it's going to be, you know, what we put into it is going to make it, you know, the end result so much better. So yeah, it's like you're constantly thinking about how to do things, to go over and above and do things better, and you know, improve on the information that we're giving you and create new things that we, you know, we wouldn't have requested. Like, you know, you do a lot of work that you don't even mention, you know, like in the background, researching stuff and deciding what articles to create for, you know, content on the website and what search terms you want to be targeting on the on-page SEO. So that thing's been. What do you think? Do I do that one again?
No, we're good. We can just go on. I love when it's a rule.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so yeah, my do not disturb's not on.
Don't worry about this at all.
Is a customer we should be answering? No, it's not. It's something. So yeah, I can't remember the question now. What was it?
Well, it was you were able to answer this completely and fully. It was about the experience.
Yeah,
the
the
actually
experience is like super big. You're always doing something. Like I thought what was going to happen was you'd build the website, you'd set up the marketing, and then, you know, you'd set up the CRM or whatever, and it'd be like, good, well, I'll check in with you maybe next month and see how you're doing. But it's like you're checking in with me, you know, weekly, couple of times a week, going, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. We've published this, we've published that, and you know, even being like, you've not responded to this person on the CRM, you better get back on and respond to them. You know, like it's like having a, you know, somebody that's checking up on what you're doing and making sure you're doing it, holding you accountable to what you need to be doing. You know, and I'm really good at not, you know, not finding time to go and make sure everything's done. So, you know, having somebody there that's just making sure everything's going and working smoothly is super helpful.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's talk about the results specifically. What we can definitely name changed over only just the past couple of months of us working together? Like, what exactly happened with the new prospects, with the quality of them, with actual jobs closed? The numbers in general. Be as specific as you can, because obviously this is the most interesting part for anyone that's watching this right now.
Yeah, so I mean, like before we weren't really tracking it, but you know, I can tell you that we were doing maybe, I don't know, 10 surveys a week, 12 surveys a week, something like that. You know, some weeks we get a bit more, some weeks we get a bit less, some weeks we're fighting to try and get a couple of surveys in each day. And, you know, this week I think we've got 25 surveys in, or 26 surveys, plus another 2 that I had to go and do myself, other than our surveyor going out, because we literally don't have enough time in the day for him to go. You know, next week we're fully booked as well, and we're booking the following week. So each week previously, I would always be trying to find surveys for the next day to fill our surveyors' diaries. And now you know, we're on Thursday just now. Next week was fully booked as of yesterday. You know, he's flat out morning till evening carrying out these surveys. And, you know, that's the biggest difference for me, is that there's no time to fit anybody in next week because he's already full. And I think if I just pull up our CRM just now, which is tracking all the customers that we get, which we weren't doing before I'd have to go through, you know, 250 emails to try and count up how many people we've got. But we've got 18 opportunities that have come in over the last couple of days that we need to book for a survey. So that's pretty much the week after next, booked up as soon as we've got them in the diary as well. So it's been a massive increase in the amount of inquiries that we're getting, but also the quality of them is, you know, really good. Like there's nobody coming to us that we're having to chase to get a survey booked in. There's nobody coming that isn't interested in services that we're doing. They all know exactly what they want. They've looked at our website, and you know, they've got in touch with us because they're looking to get this product installed.
And did you feel the difference between actually you closing people? So like, did the experience of closing the prospect change at all when it comes to how comfortable it is to close somebody, or what, how exactly the process go, if there are any problems going on, or is it pretty much the same as it was before, just with a better quality of the prospect? How exactly this goes?
So for us, like, we never really try and close people. Like, it's more of a, we'll send you a quote, and if you've got questions, we're happy to answer them. And if you get it done, great. If you don't, that's fine too. I think the biggest thing was having everybody organized so that if somebody did have a question, we'd be able to see it immediately, and it wouldn't get lost in an email inbox. It's sitting on our CRM in its own section, waiting for us to respond. And it's one of those ones where just having that organization has allowed us to close customers more effectively, because we've got notifications saying I can look at it right now and go, we've not responded to this customer whose message earlier on today, and but we know everybody else has been contacted. So that's made closing customers so easy, because they're not having to chase us for days and days and days, trying to phone, email, and go, I've sent you 2 emails and you've not got back to me yet. And it's like having an extra employee that's organizing stuff and just able to log in somewhere on your phone, on your computer, and just know exactly where every customer is. And they're
without actually paying for the employee. It's just a system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just sitting there, and it does it for you. It's like having an admin that you can sort of say, what have I got to do today? And then you just turn it on and all your tasks are there.
Fantastic. And then beyond the numbers and what you just described to me, what has this changed for you personally? Even over the past 2 months, a very short period of time, did even differently, did anything change at all personally? And if so, what exactly for you as the owner? What's now?
Yeah, so I'm probably doing twice as much work now, because there's twice as many leads coming through. But I'd probably say it's more like we're getting 3 times as many leads, and I'm maybe only doing twice as much work from it, because the actual work that we've got to do for each job is so much more straightforward and streamlined that I'm not having to spend all my days chasing up what I haven't done and looking here, there, and everywhere. And it's just nice to be organized and to know exactly what you've got to do and not be thinking, what have I forgotten to do today? It's all sitting there in its own place, and you're able to.
Would you say your average week right now changed big compared to the average week, for example, in May this year, or not really?
Yeah, so this has been the busiest May, June, July, August that we've ever had. Really, it's been like a heat wave in the UK, and even in Scotland, it's been super hot. And normally we're struggling with generating leads, because nobody cares about the
Nobody would stop. Yeah,
insulation. Yeah, they're not interested in insulating their house, because they're not really thinking it keeps the heat out and the cool in. They're only really thinking of it as something that helps them in the winter. But this year it's been as busy as a normal winter, but during summer. So it's going to be interesting to see how busy it is when the cold weather actually arrives, and we've got the influx of additional customers that we usually get every winter. But I know
about this one.
I know that we're organized there, so that it's all going to come in here, and it's all going to push through the sales process super straightforward. We're not going to miss anybody. Everything's going to get responded to in a timely fashion, and nobody's going to get forgotten about, which makes me less concerned for the additional customers.
Fantastic, very good. And then let's imagine the situation that somebody is out there right now researching different companies, or generally having a conversation with different agencies, or just want to do them themselves, or specifically thinking about working with me and the team, and they are on the fence right now. Like, they're on the fence about this. They just trying to find somebody who will actually help them the most. What would you say to them? What would you say to them if you were to kind of
so
your experience?
I've been on the fence with trying to improve our marketing and stuff for probably like 3 or 4 years at this point. Like, every year I say I'm going to redesign my website myself. I'm going to add these pages to the website. I'm going to do more social media marketing. I'm going to put more pictures on our Google My Business page or whatever, and you never do it. And it's always, I'll do it, and next month or I'll do it. This summer or whatever, I'll do it. When I get a little bit of time, and it just never happens. And why wouldn't you just get somebody as good as you to do it for you? Like I was quite like control oriented. I wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be, and I wanted it to follow the vision that I had for how I wanted it to look. And you were super interested in finding out what we wanted and how it was, and then creating this final product that surpassed what we were wanting it to be. So it wasn't the exact same as I'd written it, because if it was, it wouldn't be as good. And it was all the ideas that we'd come to you with were taken, broken down into their core elements, and then recreated in the absolute best way possible to explain it to a customer in the way that they understand and that works for them. So
Fantastic. Thank you. And anything else I didn't ask you that you would want to add potentially?
yeah, I think you probably missed out the review thing. So we have been
Oh yeah.
we've
Okay.
been going for 5 years, and we had, I think, I don't know, 70 or 80 reviews in total from doing good work for people, because we never really asked for a review. We never really, we got them now and again, and they were all really good. People were writing paragraphs for us, but it was something that we'd get one through every month or two, and we're quite happy when they came in. But what you've done is, obviously, since we've been working together for the last 3 months or 2.5 months, whatever it is, we went from that 80 reviews, for example, to, I think it's 112 the last time I looked. So
Yes. And it wasn't the first portion of past clients. We reached out to like to 190. Well, out of 100.
Yeah, so I mean, I was really skeptical over the let's reach out to the past clients and see if they wanted to leave us a review kind of thing. So I'm like, well, why wouldn't they have already left us a review? But people were so excited to hear from you, just checking in on seeing how the work had went, and super happy to let you know that everything's great and that's made such a difference and whatever. And then leave a good review. And I think there's a lot of people that thought, what, I will leave that company a good review, but then I just completely forgotten to do it because it's busy. They maybe got their invoice on an evening and they've got things to do. They've paid it, and then that's the last they've thought about it. But what you've done with the reactivation of our past clients and getting in touch with everybody, we've only done, I think, at the moment, maybe not even a quarter of the clients that we've installed. And I think we've probably had about almost 30 reviews from it in 2 months. I don't even think it's been as long as that, because we didn't even start it for a month then.
Yes, and also plus the referrals, of course, right? I think you mentioned to me that you were able to close people actually out of this campaign that we didn't even intend to close.
So the way you initially sold it was like, look, there's people out there that would probably got more work in them for you to do, and if we contact them, you might get some more jobs. And I was very much of the opinion that once we insulate their house, there's nothing left for us to do for them. So we've had probably 3 or 4 customers who had moved house and thought, what, yeah, we'd like to get you back. You did a good job last time, and we've been thinking about doing something on a new property. And we won one of the jobs so far that's been booked in. That was £12,000 or whatever worth of work, which has been which we might not have ever got. That customer might have forgotten our company name or mislaid our email address or whatever, and they might have just Googled it and got somebody else. So getting back in touch with them, I thought we were going to get absolutely nothing from, and we've ended up with 30 reviews, a £12,000 job, and and we're barely started it. But I think for other people as well, like, even if you've not got a load of past clients to do, the way that your automations work in your sales funnel, and after the job's been done, and asking customers how the work was, if they have any issues with it, and automatically, and then also asking for reviews at the end of that, is going to get a lot more reviews from the customers that we're actually installing today as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we're at 150 reviews by Christmas, and then, you know,
Oh yeah.
200 by next summer, maybe even 300 by the end of next year, or more. Like, I don't know. The sky's the limit at this point, because it's, I never thought we were going to get 30 in the space of 90 days or whatever it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Fantastic. I think that's it.